You also, at the end of this class, get to understand you can either tune this within the camera, or you can decide to say, okay, I'll go ahead and snap that way. Then later when I'm editing, I can work on my white balancing. It's at your own discretion. Okay, so color temperatures are, you're rightly saying there, is used to describe what? The appearance produced by the light source. Okay, so now you've known that there must be a light source for light to be in a particular location. So if you want to go and carry out a photo shoot, you need absolute light. Now we've heard about chroma background, green screen. Yes. Green screen is typically about light. So if you see a typical green screen studio, you see there is a lot of light. Because for you to key that green screen, if you don't use a lot of light, you start seeing green at the edge of your screen. That's because you need lots of light. So color temperature is very, very important in picture taking. It's also very important in videography. And as an upcoming cinematographer or video guy, photographers, you need to learn how to manipulate your color temperature and white balancing. Very, very important. If not, your field will be different. So we're going to be looking at a different color scheme, color temperature scheme. You know the time of the day to snap. Like if you want to go and snap by this kind of time, sunset now, you know your how to tweak your color temperature. If you're under tungsten light, you know how to tweak your setting. If you are maybe shooting within the night, you can easily change your color temperature. Different settings for different light source. Any question? I don't want to go deep too much. I was meant to understand this is a basic class, so I want to stick to basic. Okay, so the typical temperature of the sun is what? As in the measurement for the sun. Surface temperature. I know you want me, is what? Say what? 1000 Kelvin. Say what? Okay, some of the cameras you're going to be using, you may not have the liberty to tweak the Kelvin settings. Some of them you can tweak it. So if you know the actual exact number, all you need to just impute it. But some of them you will not know. You just see the settings, the color temperature already there. You see cloudy, tungsten, daylight, shade. You can just be the one to select. But some of them you will still see K, which is Kelvin. That one avails the opportunity to use to impute the digit yourself. So if you don't know the actual number for each settings, oh, here's your name. Okay, so the candle light, you're saying the temperature is between 1000 and 2000. Which one is household lighting? That's household lighting. Okay, between 2005 to 3005. Sunrise and sunset. When is sunrise and when is sunset? In the morning time is what? Sunrise. Then evening is what? Sunset. 3000 to 4000. Sunlight and flash. 5000 to 6000. It's correct, right? Clear sky is what? What's the difference between clear sky and sunlight and flash? That sunlight and flash is 52 to 6000. And the clear sky is 6000 to 65. What's the difference between those two color temperatures? What's the difference between, not in terms of the unit of measurement? What does it mean for we to have clear sky and the other one will have sunlight? When there is sunlight, don't we have clear sky? So what's the difference between clear sky again and sun? You're going to snap a lot, so you better get used to these terms and understand it. Because if you don't understand it, you're going to have issue when you handle the camera. Just like I told you when it was, I think 2 classes ago or a class ago, when I went to shoot with somebody professional, his resolution was the same resolution with mine. Every setting was the same thing with mine. I was shooting in daylight. He was shooting in automatic white balance. He made the decision that he has to choose in automatic white balance because when you decide not to choose in shoot in automatic white balance, it means you'll be the one tweaking the what the color temperature at different color times. I may be shooting right now. It's very sunny, clear sky, and I was able to tune my color temperature to match that particular time. All of a sudden, it changes over time as you're shooting. You know now the condition of the weather changes. So when it changes, you may not. Sometimes we are not that alert to still tweak our color temperature. So automatically, we just prefer to leave it in automatic white balance. That let this camera decide for us. Then later we can edit it. So he just collected my camera and checked my settings. He just discovered that the two shots, his and mine, were not of the same color temperature, and that can be a problem because the two clips, the what we are doing is a two camera shoot, and the two of them will have to be edited together. So when edited together, the color feel will be different. So immediately I understood that his own was in automatic white balance, mine was in daylight. I had to adjust. So you have to understand how color temperature works. Cloudy sky and shade and heavily overcast sky. What does it mean for something to be overcast? Overcast. Overcast. Okay, let's go on. Warmer color temperature, such as those produced by candle flame. Understand this, so I'm going to rush it, but I believe you understand it. Warmer color temperature. Warmer color temperature. Do you know what it means for something to be warmer? Okay. Such as those produced by the candle flame or a setting sun have a low Kelvin value, such as 3000. Okay. Neutral color temperature, such as midday sunlight, have a medium Kelvin value around 5000 K. Do you understand? What is warmer? When a temperature is considered to be warmer, I think give me water in what that language people know is how what when you say give me water in room temperature. What does it mean? Warm water. Okay. It's not hot, it's not cold. It's just neutral. Okay. So when you see a picture that is well edited, you see that everything is balanced. But when you see a picture that the color drops, you know very well that the color is warm. The picture is not that sharp. The color is not popping out. You look at a typical picture, it's not popping out. You're fair, but it's not popping out. You know that thing, normally we call it person shot. It may not be that the person shot in low light environment, but it may be that the color temperature is that's how it was set. I can set a typical studio right now and I want to take a photo shoot, but at the end, my picture will be warm. It will not be sharp. It's user preference, meaning that's how I set it. Okay, so and keep your hand. And cooler temperature produced by clouds or shade have a high Kelvin value of 6000 Kelvin and beyond. I'm trying to rush this topic because I believe people know what color temperature is all about. You know, partially. Okay, let me ask this question to be sure. If you don't, I'll know if it's partial. I can go deep. Not all lights are created equal. Not all lights are created, or let me say, not all lights is actually created equal. What does that mean? Not all these lights. There are different lights, right? Tungsten and the rest of it, shade, cloud. Not all of them are created equal. What does it mean?
electricity bulb and this normal one, normal bulb and incandescent bulb. Together to one and this electricity bulb. Is it different? The other one is.
Are you talking about your explanation? Is it based on quality now or based on the color of the light? Okay. So that means you understood what I was talking about.
So I'm gonna have one understanding.
Okay, who has another explanation to that? Not all colors are created equal. I think I have a slide about that. I'll check. Not all colors are created equal. What does it mean? Another explanation. Not all color is created equal. Something. I'll skip it if you don't say something. What you see as light under a particular condition, you're seeing this in under as tungsten or whatever, but under another kind of power source, this will not be tungsten light. The temperature will change. If I add too much light to this place now, you will not feel the intensity of this, the temperature of this tungsten light again. So when I'm talking about not all colors are created equal, I'm not talking about quality, just as you see. I'm talking about the color of the light. Under different light source, the color changes. The sun, at the point it becomes so intense, so hot, that intense, that when you snap, you get what we call that's called what's that rubbish called again? Overexposed shots. That same light, but at sunset, is it sunset or sunrise? Both of them. When you take another snapshot under that same condition, you have maybe a warm shot. But if you properly tweak your camera, you will get a balanced shot. But it's still under that same source. So it's all about the color, the light color at different light source, depending on how you expose it. That's light. I'm trying not to go deep. Okay, as I said before, look and feel is determined by white balance. I've explained this before now. The feel of your picture is determined by white balancing. The look and feel is determined by white balancing and color temperature. So when you know how to manipulate these two, you are good to go. I want to see if we can use that camera. That's why I'm rushing. So when you exceed your safe zone, you know what will happen. You start getting overexposed shots. I said something like this now. Different lighting conditions can also have different color temperature. If I'm shooting at 5,000 Kelvin, let's say 5,500 Kelvin, which is an example I'm giving now. This sunlight, sunny, and my camera white balance is set at 5,500. I don't know if you're seeing the color, you're seeing the color feel, the color temperature. Still with this setting on my camera, I will do this. There are two different pictures though. Okay, you're not seeing me change it. Yeah, let me start. This one. Look at it. It's because of this stuff. I've actually changed it, Sha.
I really. Just like this. Very checking
Oh, let me see. I think I have this picture more. It's that I said the feel. Actually, if my laptop, you would have seen it better. One of them, the color is sharper. One, it's warmer. What happened is the explanation. They were taking only moments apart. But between the first and the second image, the sun went behind the cloud, meaning the sun dropped. Yeah, it reduced in temperature. So the feel changed immediately. Okay, so let me give a typical one here. The light source did not change, but the conditions changed. What was the condition that changed? The sun was very sharp and harsh at the point. All of a sudden, it went behind the cloud, and because of that, the field changed. So you, as a photographer or a cameraman, you should know immediately to change your settings. So if you know you forget, just leave it automatic by balancing. And later you do your editing in temperature. So the field changed immediately. Okay, so let me give you a typical one here. The light source did not change, oh, but the conditions changed. What was the condition that changed? The sun was very sharp and harsh at the point. All of a sudden, it went behind the cloud, and because of that, the field changed. So you, as a photographer or a cameraman, you should know immediately to change your settings. So if you know you forget, just leave it automatic by balancing. And later you do your editing. Eh? That's why I say user discretion. Me, I shoot in automatic by balancing. I don't have stress. I don't want stress. This is, you can see this one better now. You know, some of us, when we see this kind of picture, we say, yeah, the color came out very well. The color came out very well. It's good to go. But this is actually correct while balancing. That's why when someone asked the question last time, when you were make your makeup made it look like I told you it's all about your skin tone. So when you start snapping, imagine when I'm dark, you're making me fair in your editing. That's not, you're not doing well. So your skin tone, you have to do a lot on skin tone when you start editing. So don't turn Wiki to a fair guy all of a sudden. So when you look at this one has a too much orange feel. All you need to do is just to cut it down. You need to do a thorough white balancing to cut it down. But that one is warmer, just normal. They can still work on that picture. Sha. Okay, so that's color temperature. Have you taken a snapshot before? And what you're seeing is when you snap, what you're seeing in the camera is versus what you actually saw before you took the picture.
Yes.
What's the cause of that?
Not like.
So what would you do to solve that issue? I'm seeing you putting on red. I'm seeing this particular scene. Oh, I love the scenery. Especially at that time the sun is going down. If you go to Abalabi Long John and just look towards the side, you see how the sky, the cloud is so beautiful. And you pick up your camera and you want to snap. What you got is versus what you saw. So how would you have solved that issue? If you stay here till the sun goes down, if you're with a camera along this what's that thing called again? Huh? Yes, just along this beggar road. If you come down, you want to take a snapshot. You tend to see the color cast in the sky. Okay, you've not been coming here to take more pictures. I've been coming here. Sha. I enjoy that scene. Yeah, yeah. So when you take your camera and snap, sometimes what you're seeing is not what you're getting with your camera. The question is, you encounter this. What would you do as a cameraman? You give up on your dreams. Okay, so white balancing. White balancing means adjusting the color so that what you get looks natural. Now, this is where when we talk about white balancing, this is where we'll be talking about color cast. The essence of white balancing is when you set a white balance, you're telling the camera, please give me what I'm seeing right now. What I'm seeing before I took the camera to snap is what I want you to give me. If you don't set your white balancing very well, when you take a snapshot, what you get is a color cast. When you start seeing another color versus what you actually saw before you took the picture. You're putting on yellow. Yellow does that a lot. When you're wearing yellow and you use a flashlight, before you know, if you add too much color to it or light, it becomes white. Are we together? Add too much light now to a yellow, it starts becoming start getting this white feel. So how you manipulate your white balance to ensure that what you're seeing is what you're getting when you take the snapshot is left for you. So that's white balance. So all this grammar All the grammar you're going to be seeing here is all about removing color cast. So you either do that manually or you set it for the camera you're using to do that automatically for you. It's still your discretion. Any question?
Okay. So my question is can the clothes you wear, the material around you affects your white balancing? Because I have a friend during my work. We are supposed to go for some for something camera stuff. Forgotten the name, sha. So, but the clothes, it was too fair. So his complexion was not allowing the camera to capture him. He had to go back home. He told him to go home and wear something black. So does the clothes affect the white balancing?
Yes. If I have my way, if I'm asked to choose color for my clients when I want to interview them, I will ask them not to put on white. It's one color. I will not ask them to put on white. White is one color my clients will not put on. When you start editing, and imagine if I'm on flat, but flat profile professionally is good for photographers. Then when you edit something on white, if you add color, you, when you're editing, normally you have white background, you add color. Don't you see that it becomes overexposed? It becomes overexposed. You're not seeing, okay, imagine you took a snapshot of someone on Etibo, a typical Etibo white, and you try to edit it to remove the highlights to get the actual Etibo this thing. Before you know, okay, let's assume it's dark. The white, the person is wearing white, oh, but the white is not coming out that much. I want to add light to it. I want to add more white again to so that the white will pop out. Before you know, it becomes overexposed. That's white. Why have you not seen when you're snapping they use black? Most people use black to for their background. It's where they use black to what does it? Have you not worn black before? Don't you see that black absorb heat? Who told you it's not good to wear black? But when you start editing picture, you get to understand the importance of that black part of it. When you look at what we call reflector, reflector has the white part, it has the yellow, the gold part, it has one we call the diffuser inside, it has the black part. It all plays its own function in light. It softens the harshness of the light. So just need to understand these stuffs, and this thing is practical actually. That's when you understand it better. Any question? Told you I'm going to rush this class today, and I'm keeping to my word.
Talking about the you trying your clients to wear white. I thought that would be dependent on your skin color or something.
Skin tone, not actually. Skin tone matters, but by the time you start editing professionally, your skin tone will not be your major problem because you know how to touch skin tone. You know, most of us when we want to edit, we want to put too much color. So everything, if you start with Lightroom, the editing start from the up. Everything is little by little before you know you get the actual feel of what you want. But most of us will start adding it too much. So the skin tone is not actually the major problem at a point. If you have an issue with that, you can download skin tone palettes. We have different skin tone palettes. So when you snap somebody, you know the person's skin tone, but you cannot actually get it from maybe your color palette. You cannot import that skin tone palette into your workplace, then match it to the person's tone. Just take your color picker and do your normal editing and blah blah. But skin tone hardly is no, it can. Another thing I would have asked is what's the background that girl was shooting on? Or the guy, the background again. Did they also consider the background before they considered his skin tone? So what if that shirt I'm putting on is actually what I want for that photo shoot and my color? I can't do anything about my color. You're asking me to go back and change. It's you, you have to make a way. I came to your studio. How you snap me is your business. Just give me what I want. And I go. So you can't tell me my skin tone and my shirt is the problem. Improvise. You're trying to be creative. That is acceptable. When your client comes to take a snapshot, you can present your different this thing, creative ideas to your client, and let the client. So some clients these days comes with their creative ideas. This is what I want. I want a snap. Just as most of our studio, we don't have the kind of studio concept that now it should be. Then when I come, I'm supposed to see different categories of background, different categories of attire, concept. I just speak from. I've not gotten to that level yet, but that's how a typical studio should be. When I walk into your studio, I don't have any concept. You should be able to, like, when I see your this thing, I should just get what I want. So concept photography is very nice, but that's if that's what your client wants, or you discuss with your client, or you're just doing it on your own, maybe as your brand. But me, if you give me when I'm dark, you make me fair. For me, it doesn't appeal to me, sha. But it's all about concept. Photography is all about concept.
Okay, you said you prefer your client not wearing white. So that theory, is it your own theory or is what you learned from?
Actually, that's my own theory. But over the time, I've gotten used to knowing how to manipulate that. But when I started, I had issue with that white color, because I was always getting an overexposed edit. Not mostly with my videos, but with my pictures. Videos, I was able to manipulate my videos. But this is all about practice, learn new ways of doing something. But for the pictures, I was finding as a challenge. Sometimes, like, I cover more of the traditional occasions. So when I snap more with this Etibo, sometimes my picture is warm and the white is not the way I'm seeing it before I took it. So I want to step up the color of the white. But imagine if this other person there is not wearing the same white. So if I'm stepping up the white color, if I overstep it, this other person will become overexposed. So you're getting me? So I have to step up the white in a way that it will not affect the color of the other person. So sometimes I face that challenge until I now learn how to isolate just the white alone, then work on the white without affecting the rest of the shots. So with time, when I started, I would just prefer you don't wear white so they don't stress me. But now, if you like, wear your white. But you still face that challenge once in a while. Sha. These days now we use diffuser, color diffuser. If you snap somebody that is on white and the shot is overexposed, then you understand the disadvantage of having white. Because number one, you want to remove the overexposure from the picture, and you still want to retain the white color. That is where the mood starts.
I'm sorry. Yeah, there's something you said about your you are actually on traditional some. So in a situation where Bonny traditional marriage usually at evening. Okay, if the environment is kind of dark, let me say earlier evening, then the person is wearing white otibo, and in order for you and you want to increase the white, okay, if you take the picture now, then you want to make the white of the otibo to come out, how will you do it that way it won't affect the person
You know,
with due to the with the environment and the color that will be dark?
when I was having this issue more, it was when I was using just soft that flash, the speed light flash. But when we start using softbox started diffusing the light for me. But that time I was using just the speed light. In the evening, I tend to increase the light too much, so the harshness makes everybody is normal, but that particular white tends to be overexposed. Are we flowing? So that particular white tends to be overexposed. So what I now do when I start using that softbox has a way of diffusing the intensity of the light for me. So even if the picture is normal, the white is normal, all I need to do is just go home and do my little retouch and I was good to go. So when you start snapping, you understand actually what I'm referring to. So it's going to be how professional you become at the work that will make you know how to manage it. Then I was having issue, believe me. I always take time to edit whites because I want the white to be. Sometimes some of the white has lines. But when I snap them, you're not seeing the white. It's just like plain. I mean, I want to use a particular feature to remove the highlight. By the time I remove the highlights, that white highlight from the white, you may start seeing some line. But sometimes the color changes. It's no longer white as I'm seeing it. It becomes like what the other off white. So you have to don't worry, you get used to it. Another question as regards that. Any other question? I know. Okay, so now we are going into what we call the shutter speed. Shutter speed in videography is twice the frame rate. What does it mean? Twice the value of the frame rate. Oh yeah. What if I want to shoot in Nigeria? I want to cover a video work. What will be my shutter speed and what will be my frame rate? In Nigeria? I was called to do a coverage of a marriage section. Now my shutter speed is always twice the value of my frame rate, as my FPS. What is my shutter frame rate supposed to be? What is my frame rate supposed to? If my frame rate is 50, my shutter speed 25.
Your frame rate is 25. Why your shutter speed is 50?
The shutter speed is twice the what?
So the shutter speed is 25.
Please, someone understand. Answer my question. Two of them failed it. The shutter speed is always twice the frame rate, the value of the frame rate. What is my frame rate when I'm shooting in Nigeria? 25 what? Whatever, 25 is okay. So what will my shutter speed now be? Okay, it's 50. Okay, so that's twice the value of my frame rate. Don't forget the 50 is based on your resolution. Not all the resolution will be shooting at 25 frames per second. You may change to a resolution that is shooting at 24 frames per second. And that's if you even see that. Okay, so also referred to as exposure time or triangle refers to the speed of the opening and closing of the. This is why I need the camera now. Opening of the curtains in front of the sensor. It measures in milliseconds. Okay, let me leave that. The speed, when you start tweaking your shutter speed in photography, if you want to capture, you want to freeze motion, you have to use a higher shutter speed. If you want, do I come down? If there is a bike that is passing now, and I want to snap that bike and I want to capture that bike without getting that blurry effect of the bike, I want to freeze the motion. When a fan is speeding, you take a snapshot, you can see the blade fully. No blurriness. You have to shoot at a higher shutter speed. Higher shutter speed freezes motion. Why a lower shutter speed does what? Captures blur, that's motion blur. So if you shoot at a lower shutter speed and you want to capture that bike, what you get is motion blur. You get the bike moving in a blurry state. So if you know, maybe I ask you now, someone is pouring water and I want to do a video walk, that water, I'm just pouring water normally and I want to video that water, I want to see the water dropping one. That water, when you like, you see now, when you want to one. At what shutter speed do you think your video, this thing will be? Higher. Okay, now, although I'm going to give you this example, I'm not going to tell you the answer because you're going to experience it. When you experience it, remember I told you today. You go out to snap with the camera. Now, when you go up to 400 in terms of a shutter speed, sometimes just listen. you will discover that from below your screen is black. You will set it to 400. Sometimes you may go higher. Then when you snap, you discover that below it is black. Imagine if you're covering a marriage and that part the person wants to kiss, you want to capture it, you want it to be crisp, very sharp, and when you take that snapshot, what you're seeing, the bottom part of your shot is black. You cannot fix that in post though. I know most of you are thinking you fix it in post. So when you go out to start using this camera and you experience it, then we will learn how to solve it. Why will I tell you? When we reach that bridge, don't forget, don't ignore that error sign when you see it. So do you understand what okay, so when I want to video and I want slow motion, how should my shutter speed be? Okay, so now let's go into the mathematics of shutter speed. I said it's what the closing of the curtain in front of the sensor. I think I'm willing to take that risk with this camera. It's a risk I should not be taking. Okay, when I open this camera, there's what we call a sensor, which should not be exposed to too much light. Sensor. When you put a lens here, this lens inside there has a curtain. It's folding, meaning you can open it small. I'm supposed to put the diagram here, maybe in your next class. As you increase the number, it opens till you get a wider shot. So sometimes you snap when you. I need to break it down so you understand, because she's not flowing. She's not flowing. Okay, I said it has to do with the opening and closing of the curtain. Now, this is the curtain, and there is what? A sensor inside. Now, if I open this thing too long, what do you think will do? What will happen? More light will enter, and that will be what? Yes, because this means a longer what? Because it's taking long now. The light is coming, but if I do that, is what it does open and close fast. What? Because that's what I mean. The opening and the closing of the curtains in front of the sensor. The sensor is inside, right? But this is the curtain. So the opening and closing of that sensor, the curtain, the opening and closing of the curtain, is what we are referring to what at the shutter speed. So at what speed are you opening these curtains to allow light to hit the sensor to generate the image or the clip you're looking at for? That is the shutter speed. Yes, how fast the opening and the closing of these curtains. That's what we're talking about, shutter speed. So if you use a longer shutter speed, you know what you'll get now? Then if you use okay. So that is what shutter speed. So when someone is running, like most of these persons are on race, and you want to freeze the motion, you know what to use a faster shutter speed. If your shutter speed is slow, your shot will be blurry. It will definitely be blurry. So I cannot be running and you want to capture freeze motion and you're shooting at a lower shutter speed. It will definitely be blurred. Go ahead. Are you miking him? Let's ask the question.
Okay, so what happens if the shutter speed is too fast, like it's too high?
If it's too fast,
If it's too high?
if
Shutter
it's too
speed.
high, that's if it's too much now.
Yes, yes.
What do you think will happen? It's be dark. You can sit down. Okay, now let's not be like we understood. What is it? What number do you think would be a longer shutter speed? What does it mean for something to be longer? That I've been using faster, lower, and longer. Let's understand the term. Faster shutter speed is what? Is it a higher number or a lower number?
The higher number.
That's a faster shutter speed.
Yes.
Then lower shutter speed is what?
The lower number.
So when I say faster, I'm also referring to what?
The higher number.
So I don't know the higher. What do you mean by higher? Like, give me a typical number.
Okay, like for that, like for example, that 400 that you said.
400.
So you say it can be above that, Abby.
Yes, it can go up to 1,000. 1,000.
Okay, for a picture now, you're using, let me say, 600. What will
Okay.
happen to that picture? Like you're trying to capture somebody on a race.
You freeze motion definitely because you're using a faster shutter speed. You freeze motion.
I want to know if there will be any effect, like a bad effect, if the shutter speed is too high.
So now, if I answer your question automatically, there sometimes you have effect like that one. Now you get that color cast under that black color cast. Normally that 400 is okay for me. So you have to compensate with the other two settings. Now the essence of this exposure triangle is to bring in light into your camera or to do what, reduce the intake of light. That's what the exposure triangle is all about, exposure. So sometimes you are shooting in a low light environment. You have increased your aperture because the three of them is either used to get light into your camera or to reduce light. Are we together? Sometimes you have exhausted the aperture to the highest, but yet you still don't have enough light. You will now go to your ISO. I've always tell people your ISO should always be your last resort for light. For you to touch your ISO, it means you have exhausted all the options. You have exhausted your aperture. You still don't have light. Then you are gone towards your ISO because all of them has their own effect. The effect of what's this shutter speed is that you get motion blur. Then that's if you go too much, as in if you don't use it appropriately, you get what we call what motion blur. Then for your ISO, if you go and start increasing your ISO, before you know, you start getting what we call grains, noise. And noise is unappealing to the eyes. I'm watching a movie and I'm seeing those small, small dots, those noise, those things that look as if it's transition effects. Those are called grains, but we call them grains or noise. So all these things has effects. So how you bring in light and how you take in light into the camera matters. So that's why if you are able to manipulate the exposure triangle effectively, you with over time become a professional in the handling of camera. But when you cannot handle this exposure triangle, I bet you will still be acting like a learner. Because video system is not your problem. You can easily go and set video system. Shutter speed, you can go and tweak it to 25. But how you are able to manipulate the three of them, shutter speed, aperture, and ISO, is what will amount to you being a professional. Any other question? I'm not going further again to understand this.
You know, to ask, what's an IO? That's not that aperture. We say,
Yes, that's what we're going to now. That's how I'm going to end this class. Go ahead.
So that shutter speed, does it only applies to taking of pictures? How about videos?
Yes, it applies to the two of them.
So for example now, water dropping on sand and the sand bouncing. So you for the camera to capture that slow motion, is it
Okay, it's either you want to capture it in slow motion,
yeah,
or as it splashes,
see
you
the
want
whole
to see the
action?
water splashing.
Yeah.
So now you have to decide. You know very well that faster shutter speed does what? Freezes motion, meaning at that point now you'll be seeing the water as it's splashing. You'll be seeing it. Typical example is that people that skate on water.
Yes.
When your shutter speed is high and you snap them, you can capture the water as it's splashing. But if you want a slow motion effect of that water when it's coming, as it's splashing, as it's coming down in a slow motion. Okay. So when you want to get that slow motion effect, you know what to do. You know, Any other question? Nope. You go nowhere. Any other question? No other question. May I have my own question? No time. Started. We're almost an hour late. Hmm? If I want to snap an image, you are standing here now, and I want to snap you, and I take the snapshots. Everybody at the background is blur. You are sharp. What do you? Which part of those exposure triangle is responsible for that? Why? How is it the aperture?
Something like depth or depth of but that one is in competition.
Okay, so we've looked at one of the exposure triangle shutter speed. You're going to be looking at the aperture and the ISO. But I'm believing the next time I will be here, we may not be doing much of this. I'll just pass the camera around. You do your thing, and